5 doctors declared 60 days left for Billionaire's son, but the maid unlocked an unexpected, heart-wrenching truth. Ethan Hart sat alone in the vast expanse of his family's luxurious living room, the pale winter sun casting sharp shadows across the polished floor. He felt like a ghost in his own life, trapped in a world of expectation and wealth that felt suffocating. 5 doctors had given him the same grim prognosis: 60 days left. A terminal illness was all he had to show for the years spent in the shadow of his self-made billionaire father. No one understood the burden of being the heir to the Hart fortune, the pressure of always having to be the best. As his heart raced, he reached for the only solace he could find. The thought of Rosa. Rosa, the family maid, had been a steady presence in his chaotic life. To everyone else, she was simply a worker. But to Ethan, she was a light breaking through the darkness. She often took breaks from her strenuous tasks to share snippets of her life, tales of resilience from her home in El Salvador, filled with struggles that seemed insurmountable yet were met with unwavering strength. He found comfort in her stories as if they whispered truths he'd long forgotten. She was a mother like no other, fighting to provide for her child, and it stirred something deep within him, a spark of humanity he had buried under the weight of money and status. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Each day, Ethan observed Rosa with awe. She could have chosen bitterness, but instead, she chose to smile at the world. In her presence, he often wept, tears he'd never allowed himself to shed around his father. They shared a connection, forged through raw humanity, as they discussed dreams and fears. Whenever she shared a story about her son excelling at school, his heart swelled with hope. He began to grasp the simple yet profound truth that life was not measured in wealth but in love, resilience, and the connections formed despite circumstances. Yet, beneath the surface of these heartwarming moments, familial tensions churned. His father was a man entrenched in the belief of the American dream, a rigid ideal of success where vulnerability was a sign of weakness. Their interactions were fraught with unspoken words. Just the other day, his father had barked, "Stop moping around, Ethan. Fight this." Ethan craved his father's acceptance, but the love he desired felt forever out of reach. As the community rallied around him, Ethan felt their support like a warm blanket against the cold. Rosa's laughter sang like music, opening his heart to the notion of family not bound by blood but by shared struggles. Everything seemed to shift, until one fateful day, as he sat pondering everything he would lose, a shocking revelation would unravel their world, sending him spiraling into unexpected choices. Ethan stood at a pivotal juncture, ready to confront his father about the real value of love, but now faced with another layer of complexity. What did it truly mean to be free? Would he cling to the weight of his family's legacy or embrace the raw, unfiltered truth that Rosa had gifted him? The road ahead looked daunting, but in that moment, he knew this journey was just beginning. Ethan sat on the edge of the plush couch, his mind racing. The ticking clock on the wall echoed loud in his ears, each second a reminder of the 60 days looming ahead. He felt fractured, pulled in 2 different directions. On one side was the wealthy, polished image of the Hart family legacy, and on the other, the raw, unvarnished truth he had glimpsed through Rosa's stories. Suddenly, a soft knock on the door broke his reverie. It was Rosa, her warm smile creeping through the heavy gloom that surrounded him. "Ethan, can I come in?" she asked, her voice gentle yet firm. "Of course, Rosa," he replied, his heart lifting slightly at the sight of her. She entered, arms laden with a basket of freshly baked goods, a treat she'd often share to ease the weights they both carried. "I thought you might like some pan dulce," she said, placing the basket on the coffee table. The sweet aroma filled the room, a stark contrast to the melancholy that cloaked him. "Thank you," he whispered, taking a piece from the basket. As he bit into the treat, memories flooded back, those times he had spent in the kitchen with her, laughing and learning simple recipes. In those moments, he felt like a person, not just a legacy. "Ethan, can I ask you something?" Rosa's tone shifted, growing more serious. "Sure, anything," he responded, curious. "Why do you let your father's words weigh so heavily on you?" she asked, looking him directly in the eye. Her gaze held a wisdom that went beyond her years. He hesitated. "Because I've always been expected to be someone I'm not. A perfect son. A perfect heir." He felt a lump forming in his throat. "But what if I'm not the man he wants me to be? What if I'm just what?" She prodded gently. "Just another disappointment. Just a sick kid with a death sentence," he finished, his voice trembling. "Ethan, you are much more than that," she said, her voice steady. "Your worth isn't measured by your father's dreams or by the money in your bank account. It's in how you touch the lives of others like me, like the people of this community." As her words sank in, Ethan's heart raced. Somewhere deep inside, he felt the flicker of hope rekindled. "But what should I do with the time I have left?" Rosa leaned in, her expression earnest. "Live it. Find what makes you happy. Your father's dreams are not your own. You must step away from that shadow, Ethan. You can't make him love you by chasing after what he wants." His mind whirled, caught in a storm of fear and longing. Could he really break free from the shackles imposed on him? The idea felt both terrifying and liberating. As they continued their conversation, a part of him began to see a possible path forward. Stories of resilience had a way of opening doors to possibilities long thought lost. In that moment, he realized he wanted to fight not just for life, but for the truth he had discovered through Rosa. Then came the moment that stopped him cold. "Ethan," Rosa said, hesitating slightly, "there's something I need to tell you. Something unexpected about your family." His heart raced. He leaned closer, breath caught in his throat. What truth could turn everything upside down? What would it reveal about the heart of the family he had known? Ethan felt as if the ground beneath him was shifting, the thoughts swirling in his mind, waiting for the crucial revelation that could change everything he believed. Would it liberate him or shatter him further? Ethan's breath caught in his throat, anticipation mounting as he waited for Rosa to speak. She took a deep breath, her expression a mixture of determination and apprehension. "It's about your father, Ethan. There are pieces of his past you don't know, things that might change how you see him." Ethan's heart raced, thrumming against his ribcage. "What do you mean?" Rosa took a moment, glancing down at her hands before meeting his gaze again. "Before he became the businessman you know, he was involved in something different. Something that could explain why he holds so tightly to his legacy." A thread of curiosity twisted into anxiety. "Like what?" "There was a time he was taken by his own ambition, and during that time, he made choices that hurt people he still hasn't forgiven himself for. I think that's why he pushes you so hard. He doesn't want you to make the same mistakes, but he's lost sight of what's truly important." Ethan felt the weight of her words. The polished facade of his father didn't just hide the expectations, it concealed a history that could unravel everything he thought he knew. "Why would you know this?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "I've worked in this home longer than you've been alive. I've seen the changes, the shadows." She paused, studying his face. There were people who depended on him, people he abandoned. "It's a burden he carries, and it spills over onto you." A chill ran down Ethan's spine. "You think that's what makes him so hard on me? That he's projecting his fears? Perhaps. And perhaps it's why I've shared so much with you. All these years, I've seen both the light and the dark. You deserve to see both sides of your father, to understand the man behind the myth." As Rosa's words sank in, Ethan's heart surged with a mixture of anger and understanding. He had blamed his father for the pressure, for the pain, but now he was beginning to see the struggle within the man he had resented for so long. Rosa, if I confront him with this, what if it pushes him away? His voice trembled, uncertainty lacing his words. You could push him away, or you could help him heal. That choice is yours. Silence enveloped them, the air thick with unspoken thoughts. Ethan's mind whirled. Could he be brave enough to have that conversation? Or would he risk losing the fragile connection he had begun to forge with his father? A wave of hope washed over him. It was time to reclaim his life, to write his own narrative instead of living as a pawn in someone else's game. I think I need to speak to him, Ethan said finally. About everything. About me and about him. Rosa's smile broke through the tension. That's a powerful step, Ethan. Just remember, it won't be easy, but it will be worth it. As he rose from the couch, a rush of determination filled him. For the first time, he felt like he was finally stepping into his own skin. A decision had been made, and with it came undeniable strength, but just as he started to feel that warmth of clarity, a noise rang from the front of the house. A heated argument erupted, voices rising with unfamiliar intensity. Ethan exchanged a worried glance with Rosa. What is going on? He murmured, moving towards the door. Before Rosa could respond, the door swung open. His father stood there, anger etched into his features. Behind him, a tall figure was barely visible, shrouded in shadows. As he locked eyes with Ethan, something unspoken passed between them, a silent challenge. What are you doing here, Ethan? His father demanded, his voice tight. Ethan's heart sank as the confrontation began to unfold. Just when he felt ready to find freedom, was he stepping into a new kind of battle? And who was the figure lurking behind? The tension in the room thickened, swirling with unresolved feelings and unspoken truths, hinting at a storm that was far from over. Ethan felt as if time hung suspended in the air, each second stretching longer as he stared at his father. Behind the anger in the older man's eyes, he could see the fear simmering, barely concealed beneath the surface. It was the first time Ethan had truly noticed the depth of his father's emotions. The figure standing in the shadows remained an enigma, but the tension was palpable, a tight cord straining to snap. I was just talking to Rosa, Ethan stammered, trying to find the right words, but they felt heavy and uncooperative on his tongue. His father's eyes narrowed, and he took a step forward, closing the distance. What does she have to say that you can't come to me about? You know how I feel about her meddling. She's not meddling. She's helping me understand, Ethan shot back, a flicker of courage igniting inside him. Helping me see you for who you are, not just as the businessman with expectations. Silence enveloped them, and for a moment, it felt as if the world had suspended all its noise to listen to the confrontation. The shadows behind his father shifted, and then the figure stepped into the light. It was a woman, older, wearied by time, but her eyes held a fierce compassion that contrasted with Ethan's father's stormy demeanor. Who are you? Ethan asked, his curiosity piqued amidst the brewing storm. Ethan, this is Clara, his father said, his voice clipped. A mistake from my past. Clara's lips curled into a gentle smile, one that didn't match the power struggle unfolding between father and son. Not a mistake, but a part of who he was, she said softly, her gaze steady on Ethan. And perhaps who he needs to confront. His heartbeat quickened, and he felt the ground beneath him shifting. His father leaned slightly toward Clara, eyes blazing with intensity. This is not the time for it. Clara interrupted gently. You've kept that part of yourself hidden for so long, and it's only brewing anger and regret. It's not just about your ambitions anymore. This is about your son. He deserves the whole truth. Clara's words hung heavily in the air, an undeniable truth that forced Ethan to look at his father in a new light. Who was this woman who dared to stand up to his father, challenging the very foundations of the world Ethan had known? Ethan's father took a deep breath, almost as if calming the storm raging inside him, but the resolve in his expression was unwavering. "What do you want, Ethan?" The question cut through Ethan like a knife. What did he want? To prove himself? To finally earn his father's approval? No. He wanted more than that. He took a deep breath, feeling the strength Rosa had instilled in him. "I want to understand you really understand. Not as the man everyone expects, but as the person beneath it all." His voice trembled but held firm against the weight of his father's gaze. His father's face flickered with something vulnerable beneath the anger, a brief glimpse of vulnerability that would allow the storm to break. Clara shifted her weight, her focus oscillating between the two men she'd come to know. "The truth is a complicated thing," she murmured, "but it's the only way forward." Ethan felt the first cracks in the fortress his father had built up over decades, and a flicker of hope ignited within him. Maybe it's time to bring that complexity into the light. As Ethan and his father stared at each other, a calm began to settle, intertwining with the tension. But the air was still thick with unspoken words, heavy with the weight of odious secrets. Would his father take that step? Would he finally choose to confront the shadows of his past? The silence echoed, amplifying the urgency of their situation. If the moment came to unveil the truth, what would it unleash? And in the heart of that uncertainty lay the promise of transformation or the depths of despair. Could they navigate this path together, or was it destined to tear them apart? The silence stretched on, thickening like fog, as Ethan's father wrestled with his thoughts. Clara remained steady, her presence a quiet anchor amid the brewing storm. Ethan felt like he was standing on a precipice, ready to plunge into whatever depths lay below. With each heartbeat, the weight of the moment sank deeper into his chest. "Why now, Ethan?" His father finally broke, his voice low and strained. "Why speak to me about this, and why involve Clara?" "Because I'm tired of pretending." Ethan's voice rose, crackling with pent-up emotion. The words spilled out like a fierce tide. "I'm tired of living in a shadow, waiting for approval that may never come. I need to know who you are, who we are as a family." His father's jaw tightened, and for a flicker of a moment, disappointment clouded his eyes. "This is not how you should approach this. You don't understand what you're asking." "But I want to understand." The plea surged forward, raw and honest. Ethan's hands clenched at his sides, trembling slightly. "Am I not worth that? Don't I deserve to know why you keep secrets? Why do you let the past define you?" His father's face hardened for an instant, but then his shoulders slumped a fraction. Clara stepped in closer to Ethan, sensing the tempest brewing beneath the surface. "It's never easy to confront the past," she said kindly. "But burying it doesn't make it go away. It only festers." Ethan felt the tension shift. For the first time, he wasn't just a troublesome kid, he was a son seeking answers. He could sense his father's defenses wavering, those walls slowly, hesitantly beginning to crack. But would he actually allow himself to be vulnerable? "I made mistakes," his father finally admitted, his voice low and rough. "Mistakes that affected your life in ways you can't imagine. I thought protecting you meant shielding you from the truth. But perhaps I only built a gilded cage." Ethan's heart raced. This was it. He could see his father's facade start to slip away, like shards of glass catching the light. "What mistakes? What happened?" Clara placed a hand gently on Ethan's shoulder, steadying him. "Let him share in his own time," she whispered. "It's a journey that he too needs to take." Ethan nodded, but inside, he was restless, desperate for answers he feared would change everything. The shadows that had haunted their family for so long were finally inching toward the light. His father hesitated, glancing between Clara's encouraging gaze and Ethan's anxious stare. "I thought if I just buried it deep enough, it would never surface again," he murmured. "But it has, and it won't leave us alone." A crack formed in the hardened shell of his father's resolve, and for the first time, Ethan saw not just a businessman but a man carrying years of regret and sorrow. "I lost something that meant everything to me, to us, and I was too prideful to admit it. What did you lose? Ethan pressed, his heart pounding. Was it a family member? A love? I lost my way, his father replied, almost broken. And in trying to maintain control, I lost you in the process. Ethan felt a swell of emotion, the kind that threatened to spill over. He saw a flicker of hope in his father's eyes, a possibility for reconciliation. But would it be enough? Was there a way to mend the tear that had ripped through their lives? As the weight of the unspoken truth loomed between them, Brennan looked into his father's eyes, bracing himself. Then let us find the path back together. Let us uncover those lost pieces. I'm ready. Clara smiled gently, sensing the shift in the atmosphere. But as Ethan held his breath, waiting for his father's response, the ground beneath them trembled, and it became clear that the revelations ahead could be as painful as they were transformative. What joined them could either bind them closer or thrust them further apart. Would they embrace this chance to heal, or would the past continue to haunt them? The choice loomed, heavy and urgent, as they teetered on the brink of discovery. Ethan felt his pulse quickening, almost expecting his father to respond with a laundry list of excuses or further dismissals. Instead, he saw a flicker of something deeper, something raw in his father's eyes. A hesitation, an inner battle brewing beneath the surface. I never meant to keep you in the dark, his father finally said, his voice trembling, but I thought I was keeping you safe. I was trying to protect your future, our future. Safe from what? Ethan pressed, a mix of frustration and impatience bubbling inside him. From the truth? From mistakes? Isn't knowing the past part of being a family? The tension in the air thickened like a storm cloud ready to burst. Clara stepped back, sensing the emotional wall that Ethan was about to breach. Ethan's father shifted on his feet, eyes focused on the ground, wrestling with thoughts that had been buried so long they felt almost foreign. I was young, he said, finally looking up. Shadows crossed his face as old memories danced in his expression. When I was your age, I made choices that, well, changed everything. I thought I could handle everything. But it all spiraled out of control. Changed everything how? Ethan's voice dropped slightly, the hurt creeping into his tone. He needed to know. Dad, just tell me. His father inhaled sharply, tears brimming in his eyes. I lost your mother before she could meet you. I never spoke about it because... He trailed off, emotions crashing over him like waves. I couldn't bear the thought of dragging you down into that darkness. I thought if I just kept going, kept you shielded, maybe it would stay buried. Ethan felt like he'd been punched in the gut. The revelation struck him hard, a wave of confusion mixed with the sudden rush of empathy. I never knew. His voice faltered, the weight of his father's sorrow overwhelming him. Why didn't you ever talk about her? Why did you shut me out? His father's face crumpled, the exterior that had always seemed so strong now showing cracks. I was afraid, Ethan. Afraid that speaking her name would break me, break us. But I see now how that fear has built a wall between us. Clara shifted closer to Ethan, her eyes reflecting a warmth and support he desperately needed. The truth was raw and it puzzled him. How could someone promise protection while simultaneously inflicting the deepest kind of hurt? So, you thought silence was the answer? Ethan's voice wobbled between anger and understanding, the tightness in his throat making it hard to speak. You thought keeping her memory from me would heal us? I thought it would keep you safe, his father said softly. But all it did was build this chasm. Ethan felt a surge of tears, battling with the impulse to rage against his father's choices. Yet beneath that anger lay a profound sadness. I've been living in this cage, Dad. Waiting for you to come back to me and share who you really are. If all you wanted was to protect me, why not trust me? We could have faced it together. The silence that filled the room now was heavy with resonance, the truth settling like dust in the air. As the two men stood across from one another, Ethan saw their shared burden reflected in his father's eyes. It was a weight they both carried, one they had subconsciously traded between them for far too long. "Maybe it's time to break that cycle," Clara interrupted gently, her voice maintaining an air of calm amid the storm brewing. "You both deserve a chance at healing. And healing needs space for the truth." Ethan's father shifted, vulnerability replacing much of his previous bravado. "But how do we do that?" he asked slowly, the question hovering like a final judgment. Ethan felt a flicker of hope within him, a chance for more than just mere breathing space. "Together," he breathed out, his voice steadier now. "From this moment on, let us not just talk about the past, let us talk about everything else, too." As they stood there, the atmosphere shifted. Hope mingled with the remnants of despair, creating an ache for something more. Had they finally begun to unravel the threads of time that kept them tethered to the pain? What other secrets lay waiting to be unveiled? The path ahead remained foggy, but for the first time, Ethan felt the possibility of light breaking through. Ethan's heart raced as he grappled with this newfound possibility. He felt the thread of connection between him and his father, a fragile line that, for so long, had been choked by silence. Yet, both men stood at the precipice of change, the weight of shared grief pressing down on them. Together, Ethan repeated, the word echoing in his mind like a promise. He could sense Clara's support, her unwavering belief that they could conquer the darkness together. It was a spark of hope that burned fiercely in his chest. "All right," his father finally said, his voice softer, steadier. "Let us talk. Not just about her, but about everything, my past, your life. Everything." Ethan felt a surge of emotion. This was a breakthrough he never imagined possible. "What do you want to start with? Your memories of Mom?" The question trembled on the edge of his lips, afraid of what it would reveal. His father hesitated, the shadows creeping back into his eyes. "I think it would be better to start with me, where I went wrong." Ethan nodded, ready to listen. His father's gaze drifted to the window, as if searching for answers just beyond reach. "When I lost her, I lost a part of myself. I was so young, grief it became my only companion. I thought if I buried it, if I just pretended it never happened, I could be strong for you. But I was only strong in the shadows. You were just trying to protect me," Ethan whispered, the understanding softening his anger. "But it started to consume me," his father continued, the tremor returning to his voice. "I didn't know how to be a father on my own. I didn't know how to be anything. I pushed you away because I didn't know how to let you in without also letting the pain in." Ethan felt tears prick at the back of his eyes. "So, instead, you created this rift between us?" "Yes. And the more I kept silence, the bigger it grew," his father admitted, his gaze breaking away from the window. He focused on Ethan now, raw vulnerability spilling into the moment. "I didn't just lose your mother, Ethan. I lost the opportunity to be the dad you deserved." Emotion washed over Ethan like a tidal wave. "But we can change that. We can find a way back to each other. We need to heal." The air felt electric with possibility, the first cutting edge of an unwrapped connection. It was a moment teetering on the edge of transformation. Ethan took a step closer, bridging the gap between them. "Let us start talking now. What do you remember about her?" His father smiled, a flicker of a genuine smile breaking through the sorrow. "She had the most infectious laugh. It could light up a room like the sun breaking through the clouds. And she loved to dance." Ethan chuckled softly as he pictured it, his mother twirling, laughter ringing through the air. "Dance? You never told me about that." His father laughed, the sound shaky but warming, filling the space with a tenderness that echoed with memories long buried. "Whenever I hear a certain song, I can see her move. It's as if we were living in that moment again." As they shared stories, the chasm began to weave a bridge of understanding. Ethan noticed subtle changes in his father. The lines of pain started to soften as memories blossomed. Hours melted away, and with each shared memory, the atmosphere became lighter. There were still shadows, still remnants of the past, but the light was pushing through. We can keep talking. I feel like I'm only now getting to know you, Ethan said, his voice filled with warmth. Maybe it's time to know ourselves better, his father replied, a sense of relief creeping into his tone. Ethan had opened the door to a new chapter, one filled with hope and the promise of healing. But as the room brightened with the warmth of budding trust, an unexpected sound pierced through the creak of the old floorboards, followed by a soft knock at the door. "Who's there?" Clara called, anxiety creeping into her voice. Both Ethan and his father froze, hearts pounding with uncertainty. What now? Who else could be waiting to disrupt this fragile moment of connection? Ethan's heart sank at the sound of the knock. The moment felt so fragile, like a carefully balanced tower of memories and newfound hopes. His father exchanged a glance with him, a mix of fear and curiosity swirling in the room. "Just a minute." Clara called again, her voice strained but determined. Ethan cleared his throat, trying to dispel the weight of anxiety closing in. "Should we?" he started, unsure whether to invite her in or to protect their conversation further. "No," his father replied sharply, anxiety tightening the lines on his face. "Let us just focus on this." With a sense of urgency, Ethan nodded, focusing once more on his father. The tension occupied the space like a thick fog. "You were telling me about Mom's laughter," he nudged gently, trying to reclaim the warmth they had just birthed together. His father swallowed hard. "Yes, her laugh. It was like music. You know, I can still hear it sometimes, especially when I let my guard down. It transports me back to those days when everything felt possible." Ethan could see the shift in his father's demeanor, and a spark of hope ignited within him. "What else do you remember?" "There was a time at the beach," his father began, softer now, the memories unfurling cautiously. "She built this huge sandcastle. I thought it was a masterpiece. She smiled at me, all sun-kissed and vibrant, and said we'd decorate it together with shells." A smile crept onto Ethan's face, picturing the vibrant scene. "I wish I could see that," he said, hunger creeping in for the moments lost. His father continued, lost in the reverie. "When the tide came in, it washed away the whole thing. I remember looking at her face, expecting her to collapse, but she just laughed. 'We'll build another one,' she said. I didn't understand then how she could be so resilient." Clara's voice interrupted again, more insistent now. "Ethan, are you in there? It's important." The urgency in her tone held a different quality, twisting Ethan's stomach into knots. "What is going on?" he mumbled under his breath. His father met his gaze, the lines etched around his eyes deepening. "Do you think she?" Ethan shook his head. "I don't know." Clara had a way of sensing when things weren't right, but he had hoped they could spend just a bit longer soaking in the light of their new connection. "Ethan." Clara's voice burst through the door, quick and sharp. "I need you to come out here. It's urgent." "What is it?" he called back, trying to remain calm. I don't want to say it through the door," she replied, her tone layered with concern. His heart raced. Whatever it was, it felt like it threatened to pull them apart just as they had begun to stitch each other back together. "Stay here. Don't leave," Ethan urged, his breath heavy with the burden of uncertainty. "I want tea." "Just promise me," his father replied, gripping the edge of the table as if anchoring himself against the changes in their fragile world. "Okay. I promise," Ethan whispered, then made his way to the door. He braced himself, heart pounding, ready to shift gears from healing into the unknown. With a deep breath, he turned the knob and opened the door, where Clara stood, panic flashing in her eyes. "You need to come quickly. It's about your grandfather." Ethan's breath caught in his throat as the implications rushed in with guttural force. What could possibly connect this pivotal moment with a man he barely knew? "Let us go," he said quietly, glancing back at his father, hoping that the bridge they started to build wouldn't crumble under this new weight. What awaited them on the other side? Ethan followed Clara, each step echoing the urgency of her tone. His mind raced with questions, tangled in uncertainty. What did his grandfather have to do with them? The memories of his father's laughter drifted away, replaced by the ominous shadow of impending news. When they reached the living room, Clara spun around. He collapsed. In the kitchen. I called 911, but the weight of her words pressed heavily on him, especially the hint of something irreversible. But what? He pressed, desperate for clarity, for hope, for anything beyond this bleak moment. Her eyes glistened, filled with tears that seemed to threaten a dam of anguish. They think it's serious. He might not make it. Ethan's heart sank further. There had always been a distance with his grandfather, a chasm of family history that made his face feel like a stranger's. What if this was the closing chapter for a man he could barely connect with? Let us go, he urged, turning on his heel. As they made their way towards the kitchen, the atmosphere felt charged with a heavy silence, punctuated only by the faint sounds of worried voices mingling with the mechanical beeping of equipment. When they stepped inside, chaos reigned. Emergency responders worked with swift efficiency, creating a buffer of caution around the frail figure slumped against the floor. Ethan's breath caught in his throat when he saw his grandfather's pale face, certainly not the jovial spirit he remembered from childhood. Ethan. His grandfather croaked, eyes fluttering, almost confused. Grandpa. He gasped, stepping closer, though Clara tightened her grip on his arm, a silent warning against getting too close. It's all right. He's here, Clara said, trying to soothe the moment. But the room was electric, the tension palpable as paramedics continued their work, occasionally glancing at them, silently assessing how close they were to the emotional edge. His grandfather winced, the effort to focus on Ethan seemingly exhausting. I'm okay, he murmured, though his breath betrayed the lie. Ethan fought against a swell of emotions: fear, regret, and an unfamiliar ache of connection. What's wrong with you? His grandfather hesitated, like he was pulling fragments of strength to share. They think it's we need you to step back, one of the paramedics interrupted, guiding Clara gently away from the frantic scene. Ethan felt himself rising to the surface of panic, but it washed away when his grandfather's hand reached out weakly. The old man grabbed Ethan's wrist, a fragile connection sparking between generations. Listen to me, Ethan. It's important. He leaned down, just the two of them in a tumult of noise. Don't let your dad. The paramedic's voice was stern, cutting through the warmth of familial bonds. Sir, we need to take him now. The jarring urgency of the situation mixed with the desperate plea from the man he hardly knew. Wait! Ethan shouted, his heart racing. What do you mean don't let him? The paramedic placed a hand on his shoulder. You need to let us do our job. Ethan felt the weight of his grandfather's gaze boring into him before the older man was whisked away, the world reducing to a blur of colors and sounds, indecipherable in its chaos. All he could hold on to was the worry that danced in the back of his mind. Was this the moment they would lose him forever? As panic swelled again, Clara returned to his side, her face pale. What happened? They're taking him to the hospital. What did he mean? Ethan asked, shaking slightly. What didn't he want you to let Dad know? Clara opened her mouth, hesitating. Her eyes flickered back toward the door, where his father remained. The realities of truth and fear loomed large. I don't know, but we're going to find out together, she finally said with a fragile resolve. Setting their sights forward, the urgency of the moment hung in the air. Two families, two generations, standing on the brink of something potentially transformative or devastating. As they left the chaos behind, a question lingered in the air: what truth was waiting for them at the hospital? Ethan felt a cold shiver run down his spine as they rushed out of the house, the chaos of the kitchen trailing behind them like a dark cloud. His heart beat wildly as he recalled the frail words of his grandfather, and a wave of fear washed over him. What did he mean about not letting his father know? What unspoken truth was lurking just out of reach, waiting to shatter the fragile peace they had begun to build? Clara drove quickly, her grip steady on the wheel, but Ethan couldn't focus on anything but the mounting anxiety clawing at his chest. It felt like the ground beneath him was shifting, leaving him unmoored as they sped toward the hospital. The air inside the car was thick, each of Clara's glances filled with concern. "Ethan, we're going to find out everything, I promise," she said, her voice laced with an encouraging tone. But part of him doubted. As they arrived at the hospital, the stark, fluorescent lights felt alien and harsh. Clara led him through the maze of sterile hallways, each footstep echoing with urgency. Time stood still as they reached the waiting room, his father already there, fists clenched and face pale. The distance had shrunk, but the love could only be described as suffocating. The air felt thick with unspoken things, and as they all tuned into the unsteady rhythm of anxiety, Ethan took a deep breath. "Dad," he said softly, feeling the burden of that familiar title weigh heavily on him. His father looked up, eyes bloodshot and drawn. "Ethan," he replied, voice barely above a whisper, the tension pooling in the corners of the room. Clara stepped back, sensing the familial confrontation that was necessary now. "I'll be right back," she said, giving them space. Ethan swallowed hard, the urgency of the moment pressing against his ribcage. "What did Grandpa mean when he said not to let you know?" he asked, emotions boiling just below the surface. His father's expression faltered, and for a brief moment, a flicker of fear broke through his tough exterior. "Ethan, please, I don't want to talk about it here. No. We have to," Ethan interrupted, fighting against the urge to break down. "We have to stop hiding from each other. You have to be honest with me." His father stiffened, and something shifted in the air between them. "It's not that simple. I've wanted to shield you from all of this. You didn't need to carry that burden. But I want to know the truth." Ethan snapped, the desperation spilling over. "Don't I deserve that? I thought I could protect you from it," his father said, his voice wavering. "Our family has been through too much pain. How is withholding the truth protecting me?" Ethan pressed, the words tumbling out in his urgency. The truth around them felt like glass, ready to shatter with the right pressure. He had felt silenced for too long, by both his father and the fear of what lay beneath the surface. His father sighed, pain etched on his features. "Your grandfather, there are things he did, decisions he made in his past that have rippling effects on our family. It's why I've clung so tightly to my legacy, terrified of repeating the past." Ethan's heart raced. What did he do? Before his father could respond, a doctor entered the room, urgency flickering in his eyes. "Mr. Hart, we need to discuss your father's condition." Ethan felt his legs crumple beneath him, but he steadied himself against a nearby wall. The doctor's expression turned grave. "Your grandfather collapsed due to complications related to heart issues. We're doing everything we can." Ethan's heart sank deeper. The longing to know his grandfather, to truly understand him, was it slipping away before it even began? "How serious is it?" his father asked, the heat of his earlier bravado extinguished, replaced now by concern and vulnerability. "Right now, we're not sure. We'll need to run tests and keep a close eye on him," the doctor replied, then stepped away, leaving uncertainty hanging like a heavy fog around them. Silence stretched, and it was then that Ethan felt the weight of their shared burdens. "Dad, he might not make it," he whispered, the realization slicing through him like cold steel. "Yes," his father replied, his voice thick, the weight of the truth sinking in. "But if we don't address everything, if we don't acknowledge the past and let it out, we might be losing the chance to truly connect, just like you and me," Ethan said, the words a plea, a desperate yearning for clarity. "I know," his father said, tears brimming in his eyes. "I've been running from the truth for so long, afraid that if I faced it, the darkness would consume everything, and lose you in the process." "Then let us not run anymore," Ethan urged. "We have to let the light in. Let's confront the truth while there's still time." In that moment, something shifted between them. The shadows lifted ever so slightly. A few moments passed, then his father met Ethan's gaze, something fierce igniting within him. "Okay. You're right. We will face it. Together." In those words, they began to forge a new connection, one that pulsed with vulnerability, truth, and hope. "Let us talk," Ethan said resolutely. "But first let us go find Grandpa." The two of them moved toward the doorway, side by side, a thin thread of possibility weaving between them. Though the road ahead remained uncertain, this time, Ethan felt lightness in the air. Just like his mother's laughter, he realized change began in the space between them, a doorway to the future where transformation awaited. As they stepped outside, the sun was breaking through the clouds, illuminating the path ahead. Hope coursed through him, breathing life into the legacy that had once felt like a chain. The journey had just begun, and as they approached the next chapter, the unspoken truth shimmered with promise. Now more than ever, it was time to embrace the transformative power of family. The echoes of the past were ready to be acknowledged, and the love woven through their shared stories began to heal. Together, they would find their way. Remember to embrace the light, even amidst the shadows. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss any more exclusive stories. You need to follow along on this journey of transformation. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. Let us share this moment together. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this kind of transformation too.